actually the problem that I was having, and maybe some of you or your families faced this, was, so I left this Wall Street job, and for the first time, I had some money that I had to sort of figure out how to manage. And I remember asking my mother, right, as I mentioned, she was an immigrant, what should I do? And she was like, put it in the bank. That's it. Put what bank? What kind of bank account? Nothing. Just put it in a bank, which I guess is better than putting it under the mattress. And I went and I spoke to my brother, who also worked in financial services. And he was like, oh, go get a financial planner. And that to me was mind blowing. So you either put it in a bank account or you can afford a financial planner, which seems to be a massive chasm. And as a millennial, what was like making me obsessed was I could basically find anything for my life through my phone, get a date, get a doctor, find some dinner, but I couldn't have a way to really figure out what are my financial options. And when I started thinking about financial access really and inclusion and this question around why is it that the spectrum is either some bank account or the mattress or a money guy, like where's everybody else? For me, as you mentioned, Don, I got obsessed. I was like, why is this happening? And I started sort of digging in further. And I I was an ex-Wall Streeter with a lot of time and too many Excel skills that I wasn't using. So the first iteration of my company was actually a macro that I built in Excel that I showed to an old college friend who was like, oh, I can turn that into an app. But what he did after telling me that, which totally changed the direction of my life for the years following, he also had a question. He was like, because we met at Columbia and we had different paths. I landed in finance. He landed in publishing, actually. And he asked me point blank, if we make so much, if our incomes are so disparate, why are you and I having the same money problems? And that's a question that I'm still trying to answer, but that I have now created a company and have a team that holistically is trying to answer this question about why is financial access so difficult in the United States when we have over 10,000 institutions? So it's a work in progress.
Wow. So when you have conversations about Lifesaver, are people interested in hearing about this topic of financial inclusion, or do you find or are you driven more to talk about financial returns? How does that combination work for you?
So I think most founders have some kind of cognitive dissonance, right? There is the reason why you start your business. Mine happens to be a mission sort of driven fintech, but we are still a C Corp company, right? And we're raising. So we're definitely a venture backable company, but I would say that the cognitive dissonance is the thing that gets you up out of the morning and why you do what you do, and what you say to investors, right? And those two things might be completely divergent. So for the average person, I think, who I'm not, trying to raise money from, and I'm just, what do you do? And I tell them, I'm like, yeah, that's a very easy conversation to have around financial inclusion. And most people are like, yeah, it's really weird. I didn't know there was 10,000 banks. Who are these 10,000 banks? Yeah, I don't know why it's so hard to open a bank account. And when I talk to sort of the people that I'm raising from, it is the trying to educate to a certain point when I can, the opportunity that financial inclusion really brings to sort of the larger financial system. And just to give y'all a little bit of context on that, what I'm trying to do with Lifesaver is essentially just reduce regular people's exposure to predatory financial products. And that is an industry that has doubled twice in a decade. So today, just the check cashing industry is a $30 billion industry. So when I think about sort of talking about the mission of Lifesaver, I very much try and tie together the idea of, look, the 5% of America is not very much of a market. The 95% of America, that long tail, needs financial products. And really kind of educate people around some of the biases around when you talk about financial inclusion, low to moderate income people. There's a lot of stereotypes that are just tied into that. But one of the realities that I think not many people realize, it is incredibly, obscenely expensive to be poor in this country. And all of those people that we write off have a purchasing power of over $1 trillion. And I fundamentally believe that irrespective of how much money you make or how much taxes or what your income bracket is, everybody deserves a bit of technology that sees them as a human being and sees their need. And there's a massive $1 billion opportunity doing that. So that's how I sort of try and manage that cognitive dissonance.